What's going on, traders? Andrew O'Connell here with Pristine Capital. Welcome to our market recap video for April 25th, 2022. Hope you all had an awesome trading day. We finally had a nice bounce in the markets today, but are we out of the woods yet? Let's figure this out. Let's dissect the technical roadmap. As always, nothing in this video should be construed as investment advice or recommendations. Always do your own due diligence. No YOLOing into any one of my trades or any one of your trades. All right, so take a look at this. We had the S&P 500 finish up 0.58% and close pretty much right at the high of the day. We had the NASDAQ QQQ of 1.28%. We had the IWM small caps finish up 0.61%. The dogs of the Dow were up 0.68%. And the ARK Innovation ETF led us pretty much the entire day, and it finished up 3.6%. You can see almost all these indices closed at the upper end of their range. And Elon Musk acquired Twitter, finally. So there's been this thing going on for the past maybe a week or two. Does he acquire it? Does he get a board seat? Does he not? And lo and behold, it looks like the deal is going to go through. He is taking Twitter private for $54.20. That was like the big talk of FinTwit Town Square. But to be honest, unless you were trading that name, not really all that applicable. The volatility of the indices closed lower. So this was another good tell. Hey, the volatility starting to come off. That is great. Breadth closed out positive. And look at this. The NASDAQ breadth was 88% and the ARK Innovation ETF had 95% advancers. This being said, my trend model is still at a -3. So for everyone in the Pristine Capital Trading Group, today we were pretty much moving as a unit. Today was awesome. We were pretty much all on the same page. And we're kind of just taking this for what it is. Like, this is a nice balance. We were able to capture it. We were able to make some pocket change off of it, play some things for balances. But let's take a look at the technical roadmap and some of these catalysts, and you'll see why we're not really out of the woods just yet. So our Finviz Heat Map, of course, a lot of these tech names got very nice balances, and energy actually got crushed. So that's pretty noteworthy. We're starting to see the move into growth. And granted, this is just day one, but it is something to watch out for. Do these energy names start to break their trend? Do investors start to move out of that inflation higher trade? Because we've been in that trade for maybe like 3 or 4 months. Do they start to take their money out of it? Take a look at our sectors. We had in the lead, we had home builders up 2.64%. They are sensitive to higher rates. So noteworthy that they were one of the leaders for today. Of course, the ARK Innovation ETF was leading. This ARK Genomics fund was up 3.46%. And look at the laggards. Utilities was a laggard. Real estate, these are defensive areas of the market. We had aerospace and defense, which is a laggard. Energy was our biggest loser, and gold miners. So we are getting a rotation out of this trade that I must say is getting pretty crowded. In our style factors, you can see the growth style factor and the high beta style factor. They really outperform. But keep in mind, we have some big earnings coming up tomorrow. We have Microsoft and we have Alphabet reporting after the bell. And then on Wednesday, we have Meta, formerly known as Facebook. And on Thursday, we have Apple and Amazon. Now, if these names just whiff on their earnings report, is the market going to keep going up? Probably not. These names, they have such high weightages in the S&P 500. Like, for instance, Apple's 6.5% of the index. Google, I believe, is another 5. It's ridiculous. There's basically 5 companies that make up about 20% of the index. If any one of those names, or let's say a couple of them, enter a downtrend, that is no bueno. That's not going to work. So it makes sense that we're seeing this hesitation. Even though we got a nice bounce today, the volatility didn't quite come out of the market, and that makes sense given that we have this big catalyst coming up. And then our Fed countdown. We have the next Fed meeting. It's coming up in a week and a day. So yeah, are players just going to be loading up on equities right into the Fed meeting like the day before? Probably not. Let's say Apple, Microsoft, all these companies report good earnings. Maybe we get a nice relief move higher. Maybe if players are a bit overhedged, because remember, we did get that super elevated put to call ratio on Friday. So Friday was definitely the day everyone panicked, everyone capitulated, and everyone said, just take me out of the game, coach. I'm done with this. So yeah, maybe we get a little bounce or some relief on these tech companies, but then we're just going to run into another wall with the Fed meeting coming up. But look at this. This is about as beautiful and as textbook as it gets in terms of a candle that you can assume is a local bottom in the market. Are we still below this downward trend line? Absolutely. But hey, we did at least clear above this monthly point of control at around 42.64. Now, I also want to show you the weekly chart. I'm going to keep this brief, but look at this. S&P 500, once again, we made another test of this yearly point of control. That is the most highly traded level of 2021, and we continue to test it. Now, if some of these companies come out with weak earnings and we start to roll over, we've already tested this level 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to count this as the 5th test. We cannot just keep stick saving in perpetuity. At some point, the buyers at that level are going to run out. So be conscious of that. Be wary. That 4186.25 level, definitely one to have marked off. Now, let's also look at the hourly chart. This is our weekly value area. And look how sold off we were when we entered into today's session. So keep this also in mind. We could bounce realistically all the way up to 43.60. And this is just a retest of the weekly value area low. It's not like, oh my gosh, we're in a bullish trend. That's just the retest from these oversold levels. So I think where a lot of traders might get in a pickle, in a bad situation, is you wait to see a lot of strength. Like, I'm sure there were a lot of traders say they go, I don't believe in this rally. I don't believe it. I'm not buying yet. I'm too scared. My portfolio's bleeding, whatever. And it's going to take a few strong days for them to really buy in. Whereas, to be honest, for myself, I'm probably looking to offload a lot of my bounce exposure if we retest this weekly value area low and or this downward trend line. As granted, my trend model is still at a -3. So if you're a trend trader, you can try to play for balances within a downtrend. If you want to keep it simple, just don't even worry about it. Just be like, we're still in a downtrend. But I must say, this morning, the Pristine Capital trading community, we were on point and we were all over this bounce, which is great. So let's talk about some of my trades for today. I got long the TQQQ common shares. I took this trade at 9:36 a.m. because we started to notice that the ARK Innovation ETF was green. That was like your big tell that there could be a bounce today. One, the elevated puts call ratio from Friday that really showed there was panic. And then we could see the NASDAQ QQQ was pretty strong right from the get-go in the morning, as well as ARK. So I did take the triple leverage NASDAQ ETF, and I wanted to make sure to just trade this thing like a pro. So it started moving in my favor, and you can see at 10:51, I moved my stop up to break even. So I said, hey, I want to protect my break even point at all costs. I actually got taken out at my break even, and then I re-entered this thing. I got right back on the horse, because that is the thing. Like, always follow your stop. You can always jump back in. I wanted to immediately jump back in, so I did that. I got in for 41.20, reset my stop at 39.94, and then I ended up taking off 25% of that for 42.51. So nice little scalp trade. Upstart, I got long this name on Friday, and for Upstart, I actually moved my stop up to break even. So what that does, this is another key element here. When you move your stop up to break even, what that does is it allows you to finance another trade. Because let's say like you don't want to have too many trades on, so you're like, okay, I'll put 3 trades on, but my outlook is bearish, so I don't want any more than that. You know, you have risk. You have the risk that you get stopped out on all 3 trades and you take your maximum loss. But if one of them starts working for you, then you can move your stop up to break even. Now suddenly on that trade, you guaranteed either a winner or you're not going to lose anything, you're just going to scratch. So now technically you only have open risk on 2 of those trades. So that's what I mean by you could potentially finance another trade. And that's a really good way to go about using progressive exposure, making sure your initial trades are working and then venturing out into other trades. So the other trade that I ventured out into was this SLVM. This was one of the names from our Pristine Capital weekend watch list. And there were only 2 names on our watch list for this week just because it was really slim pickings. But I just followed this setup pretty much to a T. This name, let's go to the daily chart. Yeah, look at this one. This one looks absolutely beautiful. Look at this. This is like a textbook setup. And what's so funny is like, this is the kind of setup that everyone on FinTwit, like this is the setup that model books are made of, where you just have like awesome uptrend. You have consolidation around the highs, sort of like a volatility contraction. then it moves off to the highs. It's so easy to identify these things in hindsight, but trading it in real time, that's what really takes the guts and the execution and also the preparation. So I entered this one. We'll see how it goes. If this one starts moving in my favor tomorrow, I'll likely move my stop up to break even on this one as well. So definitely watch out. Big earnings tomorrow. We have our Fed meeting coming up in 1 week, and I'm actually going to be speaking on a Twitter space in about 10 minutes. So feel free to check that out as well. With that being said, that about does it for this market recap video. Hope you all enjoy the rest of your night, and I'll see you all tomorrow.